You know someone like this. You've always known someone like this. Every story ends with them wronged. Every argument ends with them wounded. Every room they leave as the most injured person in it. You've called it dramatic. You've called it exhausting. You've probably, at some point, called it manipulation. But the real answer is far stranger, because what looks like a performance is actually a survival strategy, and it started long before you ever met them. Meet subject 1. We won't use real names for the purpose of this study. We'll call them Alex. Alex is 34 years old. Alex has a job, a group of friends, a complicated family, and an absolutely extraordinary ability to be wronged by all of them at roughly the same time. If Alex gets passed over for a promotion, it's because the boss has always had it out for them. If a friendship ends, it's because the other person was jealous. If something goes wrong in a relationship, you will find, upon investigation, Alex was simply too kind, too giving, too easy to take advantage of. The evidence is overwhelming. To Alex. Now, before you assume this is a story about a villain, stop. That's not what this is, because psychologists have a very different word for what Alex is doing. They call it victimhood orientation, and it is not, as it turns out, a choice. Researchers Rahav Gabe and Boaz Hamieri at Tel Aviv University spent years studying what they call the tendency for interpersonal victimhood. They found it is not simply whining or weakness, it is a stable personality trait, meaning it doesn't change much from situation to situation. It shows up across relationships, across workplaces, across decades of a person's life, and crucially, it is built, not born. Something made Alex this way, and that something most certainly happened very early. To understand subject 1, you have to go back, not to last Tuesday's argument, much further than that. Somewhere in childhood, Alex learned something. They learned that the world was not reliably safe, that care was not reliably given, that expressing a need directly, asking clearly for what you wanted, saying I am hurting, I need help, was either ignored, punished, or used against you. So Alex's brain, being the extraordinarily adaptable machine it is, found another way. If I cannot ask for help directly, I will signal distress indirectly. If I cannot say I need you, I will become someone who cannot be blamed, because if I am the victim, I cannot be the cause, and if I am not the cause, I cannot be abandoned. This is not a conscious strategy. That is the critical thing to understand. Alex is not sitting in a room plotting. Alex genuinely feels wronged. The feelings are real. The suffering is real. What is distorted is the pattern, the automatic, invisible filter through which every event gets processed before it even reaches conscious thought. Psychologist Jennifer Freyd, who developed the theory of betrayal trauma, found that children who experience unpredictable or harmful caregiving develop hypervigilance to social threat. Their brains become extremely efficient at scanning for signs of danger in other people's behavior. A change in tone, a moment of distance, a delayed reply, things that another person's nervous system might not even notice. To someone with this history, they land like signals, they land like warning, they land like proof of what they always suspected. Alex isn't dramatic. Alex is afraid, and Alex has been afraid for a very long time. Let's observe subject 1 in their natural habitat, a group dinner, Thursday, 7:43 p.m. Someone at the table makes a joke. It wasn't directed at Alex. Alex laughs. Then 2 minutes later, Alex goes quiet. The next morning, Alex will describe this dinner to a separate friend as a night where everyone was making digs at them and nobody seemed to care. The joke, in Alex's memory, has now been reclassified and it has been sorted automatically into the pile marked evidence of being undervalued. This is what researchers call a hostile attribution bias. Gabe and Hameri have found this is the one of the defining features of this victimhood orientation, the tendency to interpret ambiguous social events as intentionally harmful, Not sometimes, consistently. The brain is running a program that was written years ago, and it applies that program to everything, even a joke at a dinner table that had nothing to do with you. Now, here is the part that makes it more complicated. People with a strong victimhood orientation also score high on a trait researchers call moral exclusivity. This means they tend to see themselves as more moral than the people around them, more sensitive, more fair, more aware of injustice. And because they see themselves this way, when something goes wrong, the math is simple. If I am the more moral person in this situation and something bad happened, it could not have come from me. It must have come from you. This is not arrogance, it is armor. If Alex allows the possibility that they contributed to what went wrong, the whole structure falls apart. The one thing keeping Alex safe, the belief that pain comes from outside, from other people, from the world, is also the one thing keeping Alex stuck. Here is what the research consistently finds. People with a high tendency for interpersonal victimhood report lower satisfaction in relationships. They are more likely to ruminate, more likely to seek revenge after perceived slights, less likely to forgive, and here is the part that should make you pause. Also less likely to feel better over time, because the story they are telling themselves, the story where, where they are always the wrong party, makes growth nearly impossible. You cannot learn from an experience you were never part of causing. In 2020, Gabay and his colleagues found that victimhood orientation individuals were significantly less likely to extend forgiveness even after genuine apologies. Not because they were cruel, because forgiveness requires a kind of narrative flexibility their brains are not currently wired to allow. It would mean updating the story, and the story is all they have. So they hold the wound, they return to it, they polish it, turn it over, show it to new people, not because they enjoy suffering, because suffering, for them, is the only reliable proof that they exist and that they matter. You are in this person's life. Maybe you love them. Maybe you manage them. Maybe you share a wall with them, or a last name, or a long history you haven't figured out how to exit. So, what do you actually do? First, a warning. The instinctive response most people have is to fight the narrative, to present evidence, to list the ways in which this situation was not, in fact, entirely their fault. This does not work. It cannot work because the argument is not happening on the level of facts. It is happening on the level of identity. And when you attack the story, the person experiences it as an attack on themselves, which from inside the logic of victimhood is exactly what they're always said you were doing. Clinical psychologist Dan Newharth, who has written extensively on difficult personality patterns, suggests a different approach. Acknowledge the feeling without confirming their interpretation. That sounds like, I can see you're really hurt. Not, you're right, it was everyone else's fault. And not, you're being ridiculous. Just the feeling. Just, you're hurt, I see it. This is not about letting someone walk all over you. It is about understanding that the part of this person that is keeping them stuck is the part that has never felt genuinely seen without having to bleed for it. There is a version of you that might be watching this and feeling something uncomfortable. Not because you're thinking of someone else, but because something in this description is sitting a little too close to home. Most people, at some point in their lives, have used the logic of victimhood. After a hard loss, after a relationship that ended badly, after a period when the world genuinely was unkind and the only way to keep moving was to believe that none of it was your fault. The difference between a coping mechanism and a personality orientation is not the presence of a pattern. It is the rigidity of it, how long it stays, how far it spreads, whether it eventually allows new information in or keeps the door locked forever. If you have ever found yourself replaying an argument until the other person is entirely wrong and you are entirely right, You have stood in Alex's shoes, at least briefly. The question is how long you stayed. Alex is still at that dinner table in a way, still sorting every room into safe and unsafe, still scanning every face for signs of the next wound. It's exhausting work. It has always been exhausting work, and most of it happens in a place Alex can't consciously reach. The label is easy. The label is always easy. Victim mentality, manipulative, toxic. Labels make the uncomfortable person easy to set down and walk away from, but they don't explain anything. And they definitely don't explain how someone ends up there. You know someone like this. You've always known someone like this. And now you know something else too. The performance isn't a performance. It's a wound that never got the right kind of attention. And the reason it never healed is the same reason it started. Because somewhere along the way, this person learned that the only safe way to need something is to already be bleeding.